it above my head or over my head? I don't know which one to use. These prepositions, above and over, can be a bit confusing, but don't worry, we'll have it cleared up in no time. We'll start with above. Use above when talking about something that is higher than something else. If there is a shop and you live in a flat that is upstairs, you can say, I live above a shop. Actually, in this case, you can also say you live over the shop, but I'll get to that later. When you talk about something that is in the sky, but not traveling across the sky, use above. We were watching the fireworks display above us. Or the children's nursery song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, it goes, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Oh, cute. Use above to express measurement on a vertical scale. Today, it was above the expected temperature for this time of year. This is on a physical scale that goes up in degrees, but it can also be used to describe a figurative scale, a scale that we just imagine is there. That man has above average intelligence. Average is in the middle, above average is higher. So he's smarter than a normal person. Here's another example. Imagine I work in a supermarket and a customer doesn't like something I have done, but he doesn't speak to me about it first. He went above my head and complained to the manager. So in this figurative scale, I am at the bottom, my supervisor or team leader is above me, and then there might be a store manager above them, and so it goes higher and higher until you get to the big boss, or CEO as they're usually called. Let's move on to over. The main difference between above and over is that over gives a sense of movement or crossing that we don't get from above. The ball went over my head. This is showing movement. The plane went over the city. We are describing the movement of the plane across the sky. If I said the plane is above the city, that would mean the location of the plane at that time. I'm talking about its position right now. If a plane is in a holding pattern, circling around, waiting to land, we would also use above because although it's moving, it's not going anywhere. Its position is staying above the same city. Some examples of crossing. I went over the bridge to the other side of the river. She's going over to her friend's house. This describes moving across town. Over can also be used to describe covering or being on top of something else. So going back to my example from earlier, if I said, if I live in a flat over the shop, I am saying that my flat sits on top of the shop. So either one is fine. Examples of covering. I fell asleep on the sofa, so my mum put a blanket over me. She wore a skirt over her knees. This example is interesting because if I said her skirt went above her knees, that would mean it was higher than her knees. So in this case, over and above are opposites. So just be aware of that. I pull my hood up over my head to cover it. He wore a coat over his t-shirt. The coat is covering or on top of the t-shirt. A piece of clothing that goes on and off from the top, like a jumper or t-shirt or even a necklace, would be described as going over the head. If you were talking about more than a number of things, but not compared to another number, use over. For example, over 500 people attend this university. We can use over as a synonym for during, through, or throughout. It rained constantly over the weekend. We can also use over to show that something is finished. When the movie was over, we went for a coffee. The relationship is over and they are getting a divorce. There is an expression, over and above. We can use it to show that something is more than expected. Our city recycles over and above the government guidelines. This means that the city recycles far more than the government requires. Now it's your turn. Can you think of a sentence using over or above in one of the ways I talked about? Please write it in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Bye!